Yeah, hi, I'm Dave Bogan, and I'm a senior art director here.
And my name's Julia Lichblau. I'm an associate art director.
Okay. Thank you for this interview, guys.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about art
Sure.
of the beginning. So, what is the major inspiration in the team to make this world?
Major inspiration for this team. I don't know. For me personally, I just kind of like channel all of the shows and comics and movies all the way back to my childhood even. So, I mean, one thing specifically is like on this project, we've gotten to design a bunch of enemies and characters with like cool armor and helmets. And it's something I've always been attracted to. Like when I was a kid, I used to have little figurines that were medieval knights, or I used to love watching the Japanese cartoons of, like Grandizer and Guy King and Star Avengers and things like that. So, and of course, like the other things that people know, like Darth Vader's helmet and stormtroopers and all these kind of things. So like being able to design a bunch of characters where I can, come up with cool armor and helmets and things like that and face masks. It's always been kind of a dream. So I guess that maybe answers the question. I'm kind of meandering, but yeah. So like just past movies, comics, things like that.
I would also add to that on the environment side, a lot of the original sort of inspiration. I mean, like that, a lot of my experiences, like growing up, I loved playing the original like God of War games that had an amazing sense of scale. And I think that in our game, because we're a magical universe and it's fantasy, we're able to really push the scale of buildings because, they're crafted magically. And so they are able to be just a really dramatic silhouette on horizons, and we're able to create really interesting shapes that you wouldn't just see in classic like medieval fantasy genres. We're kind of doing a little bit of a fusion. I would say there's some science fiction, like sci-fi references mixed in with sort of an older medieval, like sort of classic medieval sort of stone, sort of traditional aesthetic.
Yeah. I think a lot of this stuff just kind of comes subconsciously. Like all the things you've experienced in your lifetime. When someone hands you a clean slate and says, okay, design this thing. It's supposed to be a big robot-y thing walking through the water. It just comes out of you. Mm-hmm. It's impossible to not be influenced by other things you've seen in your lifetime. So I think...
Okay. Talking about the character, the principal character, so how many drafts make us a team to get the final one?
To make Jack?
Yeah.
We have some crazy concepts of Jack.
Please
Crazy hairstyles.
Talk one of the craziest.
Well, the craziest one was like when we, for whatever reason, due diligence, call it what you will, we decided that we had to do an exploration on facial hair and hats. So we were getting a lot of these concepts we were getting from outsourcing in Europe, and we were just getting these designs back that I was like, oh my God, I would never think of that. And of course, we never used it either, but I want to go find the concept and like show people because it's like so.
Well, sometimes
not where we needed to end up, but you need to explore everything. So in a way, it was a great exercise. Knowing what you want is great, but knowing what you don't want is also just as important. So how many drafts? I don't know. Like the costume came online pretty quickly. We probably did like 2, maybe 3 weeks of just like thumbnail exploration. But one guy came up with a kind of a costume design that we latched onto right away. And, I was trying to, I mentioned before that, our style is kind of like a mixture of like old world, medieval type fantasy, but also kind of mashing in sci-fi. So, I always wanted to get, okay, the costume can look kind of sci-fi a little bit, but you got to have like some chainmail or something in there to kind of bring it back and to tie it together with our other designs. So this one concept we kind of latched onto, and it probably had maybe another, I don't know, 3 or 4 kind of like subtle revisions to get it there, but that one kind of came easy. Other characters.
The hand, for example.
The hand, yeah. That one went relatively quickly. Like we probably had like 2 or 3 days, like 2 pages of thumbnails, and we gravitated in on one, and then it kind of like probably took another couple of days to kind of polish it. But yeah, and once you get a couple that you're kind of nailing down on, it really helps inform the rest. So, you know, some of them surprisingly quick. They just kind of landed, you know.
Okay. Talking about all the stuff that we can find inside the video game, like the chains, like the rings, and all the stuff. How many, I don't know, items can we find inside a video game?
Are we allowed to talk about that? I don't know. Let me see. There's a lot.
Maybe not the number, but maybe a number is very too close to know how many.
General number.
General number, yeah.
General. Lots.
Yeah.
There's a lot. I mean, we ended
Definitely
up
dozens.
we ended up with more than we thought we were going to end up with. And as Brett mentioned on the call, we have the player wears rings, bracers, which are kind of more like cufflings or bracelets almost or something, or bands. Bands is a good word. And then we have the sigil, you know, the device which helps focus your magic into particular spells. And we have some left-handed items, which we call totems, and those are, you know, some other magical items that give you abilities in the game. So there's a lot. I mean, if you combine them all together, I don't know, 100?
Wow.
Yeah.
More? Probably
Yeah.
more. Yeah.
Okay. Talking about the talent tab design, it's very similar or very close like one of the Final Fantasy video games. So what is the inspiration to make this talent tab? Do you work in that? In this part of
The UI element, the talent tree.
The talent tab.
Oh, the talent
Oh.
tree. Yeah.
Talent tree, sorry.
Let me see. How did that evolve? I don't know. I mean, I've always had, from day one, and if you go over to like the far room over there, you'll see there's a bookshelf, and on top of it, there's a bunch of like crystals and quartz rocks and minerals and things like that. So very early on, we were interested in gathering reference from crystals and minerals. And one thing I wanted to do was not just try to show the regular crystal shape that everyone has, like really kind of dive deeper into existing minerals and crystals and see how dirty they are and how many inclusions they have and how many cracks and fractures and how natural they were. And that I always thought that we would end up with something like that in the menu somewhere. It would be like, over the course of the game, it's changed. Like at one point, it might have been things you collect in the world or part of crafting or something like that, but it ended up in the menu as the talent tree. It just felt like the right spot for it. So no direct correlation to Final Fantasy. It just kind of naturally grew out of.
That's very close up. And maybe this is going to be the last question, but you know, in the last days, all the world is talking about artificial intelligence in different, programming stuff. So the team use artificial intelligence in this part of the art of the video game?
No, we haven't.
We've had a lot of fun as a team. Like we have a Slack channel that had like an AI Slack channel, and we're all kind of playing around with that stuff and seeing the crazy images that we can come up with. And but you know, nothing for the game is.
Yeah, all of all the elements of our game have just been handmade by artists.
I mean, to be honest, like most of the design for the game was done because for the visual tools, like there's been a lot of advancement in that stuff, even in just the last year, right? But if you were to travel back like 2 years ago, it was almost laughable, like what you could do with that stuff. So yeah, it's not. And of course, now there's a lot of controversy with it as well. So, we landed in a good spot where we weren't even allowed to entertain the idea of using it, which I think a lot of people making a game nowadays would be struggling with that concept. Should you do it? Should you not do it?